Okay, let's move on now to question 2. The question here was, is something that is caused more likely to be negative or positive? Now, the idea here being that not that it's necessarily passive, because you can cause things, cause something, and something can be caused. So the idea was to look for the verb cause. We don't need text types. We just want to know there's distribution of cause in whole corpus. So we could do this simple query cause. The trouble is, cause is a noun as well as a verb, so it might be better to look at the lemma here. So we could look at cause, and then we can specify that we want the verb. So let's do that. And again, it's a very frequent word, 20,000 times in the whole corpus. A bit like actually, very frequent. The next step from here is we wanted to find the kind of the direct objects. So actually there are two ways of this. I'll go to the other way in a second, but the first way is to look for collocations now. So we come down here, the option we want, collocations. Because it could be active and it could be passive, the thing that is caused could be before or could be after. So we can look in this range and it will still give us a fairly, I think we'll still get a good set of results. But of course you might want to change that a bit if you did a bit of research and found that it's more likely to be active or it's not likely to be outside 3 words away. I mean, you could change it, but for now we'll leave it as the defaults. Here we go. So this is what you get if you use the defaults. And we can see here that the words which are on the first page, the strongest collocates, and let's remember these are not necessarily the most frequent, because by is going to be one of the most frequent. But according to Logdice, the strongest collocates are words which are almost invariably negative. Obviously some of them may not on the surface be negative, so like bodily isn't necessarily negative. If we go in there though, we'll note that there are lots of other negative words around it. Grievous bodily harm, well, that seems to be quite a common one because it's a criminal offence. Grievous, GBH, sometimes it's shortened to. So anyway, I think that fairly convincingly answers the question that cause almost always occurs with negative things. Those negative things are caused. I did mention some slightly different ways of doing this. So the other way I showed you in the session was we could, instead of looking for words, if we wanted just to know the nouns, we could at this stage look for tags, do the same thing again, and this will give us a list of the most common tags, or the highest, most associated tags with cause. And if we look down this list, NN2, so that's plural nouns. The problem with this way is that we only get plural or singular because of the way the tags work. But it still is a possibility. So if we do this and then we look at collocations again, we'll get the nouns which are most, here we are, we have all nouns. Interesting that it's not always nouns we get because we got adjective. It doesn't change things very much. Okay, one other way of doing this would be, I didn't mention this in class, but another way would be to go to cause, verb. It's remembered that I was looking at cause before. Then we do the word sketch. And in this case, what we're interested in is the object of cause. And here we have a very clear list of like things which are bad. And we could, of course, do with the other things that you can do with the word sketch, like cluster them. Might take a little while because there's so many hits. Here we are. And it seems to think that damage, accident, injury, problem, change, concern. So this is an automatic way of trying to look at the semantic preference of cause. So it's quite good for that. Yeah, so that's another, actually, in many ways, a simpler way of doing it.